Picture the scene. It is a Saturday morning in suburban America. The sun is reflecting off the polished chrome of a line of heavy-duty trucks and sleek SUVs. You are sitting in a glass-walled office that smells faintly of industrial carpet cleaner and expensive espresso. The salesman, a man whose smile is as practiced as a surgical procedure, slides a single sheet of paper across the desk. He doesn't talk about the price of the car. He doesn't talk about the total cost of capital. He talks about affordability. He points to a number, $750. You look at that number, compare it to your bi-weekly paycheck, and you feel a sense of relief. You sign. You take the keys. You drive off the lot, enveloped in that intoxicating new car smell, unaware that you have just performed a financial lobotomy on your future self. This is the micro-catastrophe that happens thousands of times a day across the United States. You haven't just bought a vehicle, you have signed a death sentence for your retirement. We call it the 84-month loan, and it is the single most effective tool ever designed to keep the American middle class in a state of perpetual debt servitude. I'm Bond, and this is Bond Money Mind. If you want to understand the forensic reality of how the system is designed to extract your wealth before you even earn it, you need to subscribe to this channel. We don't look at the brochure. We look at the ledger. We don't listen to the pitch. We audit the intent. Today, we are performing an autopsy on the long-term auto loan. We are going to see how a 7-year commitment to a depreciating asset effectively erases the compounding power of your 401k, leaving you with a driveway full of scrap metal and a bank account full of regret. Let's name the lie right now. The lie is that affordability is defined by your monthly cash flow. The industry wants you to believe that if you can squeeze the payment into your monthly budget, you can afford the asset. This is a systemic trap designed to exploit a fundamental glitch in human biology, our inability to accurately calculate the long-term cost of immediate gratification. When you see that $750 payment, your brain registers it as a manageable expense. But from a forensic perspective, that number is a mask. It hides a recursive cycle of wealth destruction. Behind that affordable payment is a mathematical engine that is subtracting your net worth every second the clock ticks. The 84-month loan didn't exist in a vacuum. It was engineered. A decade ago, the standard car loan was 36 to 48 months. But as car prices skyrocketed, driven by a mix of genuine tech upgrades and predatory dealer markups, the average consumer could no longer afford the monthly hit. Instead of prices coming down, the industry simply stretched the timeline. They turned a 3-year commitment into a 7-year sentence. They didn't make the car cheaper, they just made the trap longer. This is the ultimate incentive mismatch. The dealer wants to move metal today. The lender wants to collect interest for the next 84 months. The manufacturer wants you back in the showroom in 3 years, even though you still owe 4 years of payments. Everyone at that table wins, except for the person holding the pen. When you sign for 84 months, you are engaging in a war against physics and finance. A car is a depreciating asset. It is a hunk of steel, plastic, and rare earth minerals that begins to lose value the moment its tires touch the public road. In forensic math, we don't look at the MSRP. We look at the net asset value over time. By the time you reach month 42 of that loan, the halfway point, your car has likely lost 40 to 50% of its original value. However, because of the way interest is front-loaded in these long-term contracts, you have likely only paid off 25% of the principal. This is the negative equity gap, a financial canyon that most Americans never crawl out of. You are paying interest on a debt that is significantly higher than the value of the collateral. You are literally paying for nothing. You are servicing the ghost of a value that has already evaporated. This is not a personal failure. It is a systemic design. The American economy is built on the movement of vehicles, and the fuel for that movement is high-interest, long-term debt. We are conditioned to believe that a new car every few years is a sign of success. In reality, it is the primary reason why the average worker's 401k balance is a fraction of what it should be. Every dollar that goes toward the interest on an 84-month loan is a dollar that isn't capturing the 7 to 10% compound growth of the S&P 500. Over 7 years, that small interest payment doesn't just cost you the cash, it costs you the opportunity wealth that cash could have generated over the next 30 years. We are going to break down those numbers. We are going to look at the invisible costs, and we are going to show you exactly how to audit your own garage before the system audits your life. Stick with me. The forensic investigation into your freedom starts now. Subscribe to Bond Money Mind, and let's start looking at the numbers the dealership hopes you never calculate. The lie is that luxury is a monthly subscription. We've been conditioned to believe that if the monthly payment fits within our paycheck, we can afford the asset. But in the world of forensic finance, affordability isn't measured by your ability to make the payment. It's measured by the total erosion of your net worth over the life of the contract. When you sign for 84 months, you aren't just buying a car. You are entering into a long-term wealth extraction agreement. Let's run the forensic math on a standard mid-size SUV priced at $48,000. Most buyers look at the sticker and think they are paying $48,000. They aren't. With an 84-month loan at a 7% interest rate, which is actually decent in today's market, your monthly payment sits around $720. Over 7 years, you aren't paying $48,000. You are paying $60,480. That is over $12,000 in pure interest. But the math doesn't stop there. We have to subtract the recursive costs that the dealership never puts on the four-square sheet. By year 5, you are likely out of warranty. You are now paying $720 a month for a machine that requires $2,000 in timing belt repairs and new tires. You are paying interest on a failing asset. This is a systemic trap designed to keep you in a cycle of perpetual debt. By the time you finally own the vehicle in year 7, it is worth maybe $18,000. You spent $60,000 to own $18,000, while the average maintenance and registration costs added another $10,000 to your total outlay. The net loss is staggering. To be fair, there are circumstances where a longer term provides a necessary safety net for a family's monthly cash flow. If you are using the vehicle to generate income, say for a business or a commute that secures a high-paying salary, having a lower monthly obligation can prevent a total financial collapse if an unexpected medical bill or home repair arises. That said, the peace of mind offered by a lower payment is often an expensive illusion when you calculate the thousands of dollars in extra interest paid over the life of the loan. In some rare cases, if the interest rate is significantly lower than the rate of inflation, you are technically paying back the loan with cheaper future dollars. But in a high-interest environment, that logic rarely holds up for the average consumer. The invisible costs are what truly bleed you dry. When you finance for 7 years, the lender mandates full coverage insurance for the entire duration. On a financed vehicle, your premiums are often 20 to 30% higher than they would be on a car you own outright, because the bank is protecting their collateral, not your bank account. Over 84 months, that's an extra $5,000 to $7,000 in insurance premiums that provide zero benefit to your long-term wealth. Then, there is the psychological cost. Our biology is wired for the immediate. The dopamine hit of the new car smell lasts about 3 months. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning, is easily hijacked by the immediate gratification of a leather interior. Dealers use a tactic called payment packing, where they focus your entire attention on a single number, the monthly payment, to hide the fact that they've extended your term and increased the total cost of the vehicle. It is a masterclass in behavioral manipulation. They know that by month 50, you will be bored with the car, and because you still owe more than it's worth, you'll be forced to roll that negative equity into a new 84-month loan. It's a treadmill that never stops. You are trading your future freedom for a ventilated seat that you'll stop noticing by next Tuesday. We need to look at the opportunity cost. If you took the $12,000 you paid in interest and the $3,000 in extra insurance and invested it in a simple index fund within a tax-advantaged 401k, that $15,000 would grow to nearly $60,000 by the time you retire. You aren't just losing $12,000 in interest, you're losing $45,000 in future retirement stability. This is the incentive mismatch. The dealer wants a commission today, the bank wants interest for 7 years, and you are the only one left holding the bill for a depreciating hunk of steel. You have to audit your own impulses before the bank audits your life. Look at the total cost of ownership, not the monthly slice. If you can't afford the car on a 48-month term, you simply cannot afford the car. Anything else is just a slow-motion bankruptcy. Now we have to look at the biology of the trap, because the math alone doesn't explain why millions of rational Americans are signing their names to these financial death warrants. Your brain is not evolutionarily designed to calculate the impact of a compound interest curve over an 84-month horizon. We are wired for the immediate environment. When you sit in that showroom, smelling the processed chemicals of a new leather interior, your limbic system is flooded with dopamine. The salesperson isn't selling you a car. They're selling you a status upgrade and a sensory experience. They use a tactic called payment packing to bypass your logical prefrontal cortex. By focusing entirely on a 3-digit monthly number, they decouple the price of the asset from the cost of the debt. You see $600 a month and think of it as a utility bill, like water or electricity. But a car is not a utility. It is a rapidly depreciating liability that is actively cannibalizing your future net worth. Let's perform a forensic audit on the invisible costs that the dealership's finance office conveniently leaves off the Foursquare worksheet. When you extend a loan to 7 years, you aren't just paying more interest. You are forced to carry full coverage, comprehensive and collision insurance for the entire duration of that term. On an 84-month loan, your insurance premiums over the life of the loan can often equal 30 to 40% of the car's original MSRP. Then we have the maintenance gap. Most manufacturer warranties expire at 36,000 or 60,000 miles. By year 5, 6, and 7 of your loan, you are making a full monthly payment on a vehicle that is now out of warranty. You are hit with a double whammy, a high debt service payment plus the sudden, non-negotiable costs of timing belts, transmission flushes, and suspension work. This is where the systemic failure peaks. You end up putting repairs on a high-interest credit card because your monthly cash flow is already choked by the car loan itself. It's a recursive loop of debt. To be fair, there are specific scenarios where a longer-term loan is a tactical choice rather than a financial blunder. For a self-employed contractor or a small business owner, a reliable heavy-duty truck is a primary tool of production that generates direct revenue. In these cases, the ability to preserve liquid cash flow for operations by stretching out a low-interest loan can be a legitimate strategy, provided the vehicle's utility outweighs the interest expense. Additionally, if you are one of the few who can secure a subsidized rate below the current yield of a high-yield savings account, You are technically using the bank's money to your advantage. However, these exceptions represent less than 5% of the 84-month loan market. For the average consumer, this is not a tactical maneuver. It is a survival tactic for a lifestyle they cannot actually afford. Now, let's apply the bond forensic math to the true opportunity cost. If you take a $50,000 loan at 9% for 84 months, you will pay roughly $17,000 in interest. But we have to subtract the taxes first. To pay that $17,000 in interest with after-tax dollars, a person in the 24% tax bracket actually has to earn $22,300 of gross income. That is nearly half the price of the car just to rent the money. Now, take that same monthly payment difference between a 4-year loan and a 7-year loan. Let's say it's $400 a month. If you took that $400 and put it into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund instead of giving it to the bank for those extra 3 years at a historical 7% return, you are looking at an invisible loss of over $60,000 in retirement wealth over a 30-year horizon. You didn't just buy a truck. You traded your freedom at age 65 for a heated steering wheel today. Here is your actionable audit. Before you sign any auto contract, you must run the 24-10 test. First, can you put 20% down in cash? If you can't, the car is too expensive for your current balance sheet. Second, can you finance it for no more than 4 years, 48 months? If you need 84 months to make the payment fit, you are over-leveraged. Third, will the total cost of ownership, including insurance, fuel, and debt service, be less than 10% of your gross monthly income? If you fail any of these 3 metrics, you are walking into a systemic trap. Check your loan-to-value ratio at the 36-month mark. If you will owe more than the car is worth 3 years from now, you are effectively paying a mobility tax that will prevent you from ever building real equity. This is the audit the industry doesn't want you to perform, because it reveals the 84-month loan for what it truly is: a death sentence for your compounding potential. We have to ask ourselves a fundamental question. Why does a rational human being sign a contract that effectively harvests their future for a piece of depreciating metal? The answer isn't just bad math, it's biology. Your brain is being hijacked by a sophisticated psychological operation designed by the automotive industry. When you walk onto a dealership lot, your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for long-term planning and forensic logic, is immediately under assault. The smell of new leather, the tactile feedback of a steering wheel, the social signaling of a premium badge. These are all triggers for a massive dopamine release. The salesperson isn't selling you a car, they are selling you a temporary chemical high. But dopamine has a half-life. Within 6 months, that new car smell has evaporated, the novelty has worn off. But the 84-month legal obligation remains as a permanent weight on your balance sheet. This is the hedonic treadmill in its most predatory form. You are trading 84 months of your labor for a 3-month psychological peak. Let's perform a recursive forensic audit on the psychology of the monthly payment. The industry knows that the human brain struggles to conceptualize large numbers over long horizons. We can't easily visualize $70,000, but we can visualize $700 a month. By extending the term to 7 years, they anchor your focus on the affordability of the installment rather than the lethality of the total cost. It is a systemic trap designed to bypass your survival instincts. You think you're buying a lifestyle, but you're actually selling your mobility. Not physical mobility, but financial mobility. Every dollar committed to that 84-month contract is a dollar that cannot pivot when a better investment opportunity arises or when an emergency strikes. You are essentially locking yourself into a financial bunker for nearly a decade. To be fair, we must acknowledge that the American infrastructure is built almost exclusively for the private vehicle, and for many, a car is the only bridge to a paycheck. If you live in a region with zero public transit and your job requires a 60-mile commute, a reliable vehicle is a non-negotiable tool of production. In these specific cases, a modest loan for a dependable, fuel-efficient vehicle can be viewed as a necessary business expense rather than a consumer trap. If the interest rate is significantly lower than the rate of inflation and the vehicle's utility directly enables your primary income stream, the math can occasionally find a point of equilibrium. However, for the vast majority, the 84-month loan is an act of self-sabotage. To protect yourself, you need to conduct what I call a financial forensic audit before you ever step foot on a lot. Here is your actionable checklist. First, apply the 24-10 rule. Put 20% down, limit the term to no more than 4 years, and ensure the total cost of ownership, including insurance and fuel, does not exceed 10% of your gross income. If the numbers don't fit that box, you cannot afford the car. Period. Second, calculate the opportunity cost delta. Take the difference between an 84-month payment and a 48-month payment and run it through a compound interest calculator at a 7% return over 30 years. That is the actual price of the car. You aren't just paying $50,000 for the SUV. You are paying $300,000 in lost retirement wealth. Third, check your equity velocity. Ask the dealer for a projected depreciation schedule. If you are taking an 84-month loan, you will be underwater, meaning you owe more than the car is worth for at least 5 of those 7 years. That is a massive systemic risk. We need to reframe what success looks like in the American driveway. The industry wants you to believe that success is a shiny, turbocharged status symbol with a massive grille. That is a lie. Real success is a paid-off, 5-year-old vehicle that allows you to max out your 401k and IRA every single year. Real success is quiet wealth. It's the ability to walk away from a job you hate because you don't have a $700 monthly anchor dragging you down. When you see someone driving a brand new $80,000 truck on an 84-month note, don't feel envy. Feel the forensic reality. You are looking at a person who has voluntarily handcuffed their future to a depreciating asset. They have traded their freedom for a seat heater. Success isn't owning the most expensive car on the block. Success is owning your time and your future cash flow. In the bond money mindset, we don't buy toys with our future. We buy our future so we can eventually afford the world. Your car should be a tool that serves your wealth, not a parasite that consumes it. If your car loan is longer than your child's time in elementary school, you aren't a consumer. You're a donor to the bank's bottom line. It's time to stop being a donor and start being an investor. We have spent this investigation looking at the numbers on the page, the ink on the contracts, and the psychological tactics used in the showroom. But now, we have to look at the numbers that aren't there, the ghost numbers. This is where the 84-month loan transitions from a simple bad deal into a systemic execution of your long-term financial freedom. When you sign that contract, you aren't just agreeing to a monthly payment that fits your current budget. You are effectively signing a non-compete clause against your own retirement. Let's perform a final forensic math audit on the opportunity cost of this decision. This is the part they never show you in the glossy brochures. Imagine you are 35 years old. You've been told that an $800 monthly payment is the price of entry for a reliable, modern SUV. You take the 84-month term because it makes the payment breathable. But let's look at the recursive subtraction of your net worth over that period. By the time that car is finally yours 7 years later, you have paid over $67,000 in principal and likely another $12,000 to $15,000 in interest, depending on your credit tier. The vehicle, meanwhile, has followed the relentless curve of depreciation. It is now worth perhaps $22,000. You have spent $80,000 to own an asset worth $22,000. That is a $60,000 net loss in liquid wealth. But the forensic reality is even more grim when we calculate the incentive mismatch of your capital. If you had chosen a modest used vehicle with a $400 payment and diverted that $400 difference into a standard S&P 500 index fund, the math shifts violently. Over those same 84 months, at a conservative 7% average annual return, that $400 a month grows into nearly $45,000 of actual capital. If you then leave that $45,000 to compound for another 20 years until you reach retirement age, without adding another cent, it swells to over $175,000. This is the death sentence I'm talking about. One single decision to maximize your car payment for 7 years can literally erase $250,000 from your final retirement nest egg. You aren't just buying a car, you are burning down a wing of your future house. The system is designed to keep you from seeing this. It relies on a specific biological vulnerability: our brain's inability to accurately weigh future pain against present pleasure. The dealership sells you the new car smell and the safety tech, triggering a dopamine response that clouds your ability to do long-form division. They know that by month 48, you will be tired of the car. This is the negative equity trap. Because you are on an 84-month schedule, at the 4-year mark, you still owe more than the car is worth. The dealer then offers to help you by rolling that negative equity into a new 84-month loan on a newer model. It is a perpetual motion machine of debt. You become a tenant of your own transportation, paying a permanent subscription fee to a bank for the right to drive a depreciating hunk of steel. To be fair, we live in a country where public infrastructure is often non-existent, and a reliable vehicle is a requirement for employment. The systemic trap is that the market has priced reliability at a level that requires these predatory terms for the average worker. But we must reframe success. In the American narrative, success is the shiny grill in the driveway. It is the status symbol that tells your neighbors you are winning. Forensic success is different. Real success is a net worth to debt ratio that trends upward every single month. Real success is the freedom to walk away from a toxic job because you don't have a 7-year debt obligation hanging over your head. Real success is owning your time, not your leather seats. My final verdict is clear. The 84-month auto loan is a financial parasite. It is a masterpiece of financial engineering designed to harvest the labor of the middle class and move it onto the balance sheets of major lenders. It preys on the mathematically exhausted and the status anxious. It is a tool of wealth transfer disguised as affordability. If you cannot afford the vehicle on a 48-month term, the forensic truth is that you cannot afford the vehicle. Period. Anything else is a mathematical lie you are telling yourself to justify a purchase the system has groomed you to want. Don't let them erase your future gains for a temporary high. Take control of the math before the math takes control of your life. This investigation is officially closed, but your personal financial audit is just beginning. Every dollar you sign away today is a day of freedom you are selling from your future. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and always look for the hidden costs in the narrative. To ensure you stay ahead of the systems designed to separate you from your wealth, subscribe to Bond Money Mind. We strip away the marketing, the hype, and the lies to find the cold truth in the ledger. Your future self is counting on you to make the right move today. Keep your eyes on the numbers. I'll see you in the next file. Subscribe to Bond Money Mind now.